Hello and welcome back to the vlog. I'm Abby, and in today's video we are going to, better late than never, dive into the first half of the year in my bullet/reading journal. As you can see, this one has chonked up super thick, which means there's a lot of good stuff in here. So we are going to dive in. This is January through June. This is my bullet journal and reading journal for throughout the first half of the year. So let's get into it. So I always like to take this inner cover and turn it into something. This year I chose the word authentic because I wanted to have a very authentic year. It's corny, I know, but it's what I chose. And I put the definition and so on. A lot of the supplies that I got for at least the first part of this year, I got from Hobby Lobby, and it's all the ephemera pack. So here we have a little pocket. This is where I normally keep like a ruler or any sticky notes or anything, stickers or anything that I might want to use in this little pocket. Never really know what to do with the first few pages, but you can make a pocket. Then we just have some goals or manifestations. I'm not a huge yearly goal setter. I think it's very daunting and overwhelming. So I'm more like a monthly, weekly, quarterly goal kind of person. So that's why this page doesn't have that much going on. Then we have our year at a glance. This is where it has all the calendars for all the different months. So I can write in little things that are going on during those months ahead of time. This is my book and media recommendations page. So if someone recommends me a book or music or TV show, song, all of the movies, all of those kinds of things, I will put it in here with where I can listen to or watch and who recommended it to me. That way, once I have watched it, I can go back and talk to that person and say, hey, I liked this or I didn't like. Then we have our books bought and our books read, which is a little pull-out tab here. Just a way to like side-by-side comparison, show if I am buying more books than I'm reading and so on and so forth. Ideally, anything that is over here will also be over here, but we all know how that goes. Here we have our monthly favorites. So this is each book that was my favorite each month, as well as the star rating and the compile number underneath. And we're halfway through the year, so I have the rest of the months there when I get those. And then we have our reading stats. So how many books I read, pages, hours listened, average star rating, the number of 5-star books, DNFs, and books bought. And so I just fill this in as the month goes, and we'll be able to see what it all is at the end of the year. Then we have my 2024 memories. This is where I pick out one sort of event from each month that I want to highlight for the year. And I still have to put June's in, and then we have for the second half of the year as well. Then we get into our monthly spreads. Like I said, a lot of what I used is from the ephemera line from Hobby Lobby. So that's this scrapbooking paper, that's these stickers that you see here. So if you like those, that's where you can find it. And then the rest are images that I found on Pinterest. Here we have the calendar for January, my reading stats for that month. We'll flip out. I like to track when I read each book with colors on the calendar so I can see how long it took me to read certain books. These are my highlights, mood, and media spreads. I have one for every month where I record one thought or event from each day so that I can just sort of go back and high level look at what I did on those days. And then we have mood on a scale of 1 to 10. How was I feeling that day? And then our media, that's movies, TV, and music that I am listening to, watching, consuming throughout that month. This is the same pretty much setup for every single month. so I probably won't like go into detail moving forward, but you can expect these in every month. Then we have our weekly spreads. These are all this. They will be the same throughout this entire journal, but we have miscellaneous things up here each day of the week with their various tasks, some journal entry type thoughts for each day, tracking some habits, sleep tracker. That is kind of what goes on these spreads. I won't be showing these spreads moving forward, but just know that all the way up until week 52, there will be these spreads for my weekly tasks and whatnot. Here we get into our first spread dedicated to books. I change up the way that I record what I read in the next month, so take this page with a grain of salt. I write a little bit about each book that I read and give some thoughts and rating on them. If there's a book that I am particularly moved by or affects me so, I will do a full sort of like thematic spread for them. In January, I kind of did it for all the books that I read, but in future months, I pick out certain books that I want to highlight specifically, based on how much they meant to me as I read them. So here's my Empyrean spread, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, fantastic. Then I listened to all the Percy Jackson audio books for the main Percy Jackson and the Olympians books at the beginning of the year, getting ready for the TV show. So here's sort of a little spread I did dedicated to them. Then something I wanted to start doing this year specifically is printing out pictures from the month and doing sort of a highlight reel, a scrapbook of each month of the photos that I took. So my brother got engaged, so super excited about that. And so I just make these little scrapbooks about things that I was interested in at the time, or some of my B-reels. I was really on a Goldfish and Celsius kick, so all the things that I want to document and look back on and remember. Alright, we're going to be speeding this up a lot more. Here's February. Kind of a little map theme. I really do love this calendar despite it being kind of messy with the way that I decided to put in the books that I read. Here's the stats. We read 11 books this month. I like this cute little bookshelf. Not all of our stats will be flip outs, but here at the beginning they were, and they were cool. Highlights mood media, just sort of a look at the aesthetic. Here's how we end up tracking our books for the rest of the year. I just kind of give them their little box, write some information about them, some thoughts that I have, and then move on. I don't dedicate a lot of time to like really reviewing each one. Just sort of my like gut thoughts and reactions and anything I would want to like jog my memory about the plot or anything like that. There's some more. And then I just added a little leaflet here for the last two books instead of adding a whole nother page. And then my book club book was for Books and Beyond was Symphony of Secrets, so I kind of gave a dedicated spread to that. Then this is when I started reading ACOTAR, so I made an ACOTAR spread where each of the color of the covers corresponds to some quotes that I pulled out. So if you take a look at that, want to read any of the quotes that I pulled out, they correspond to the covers in there. Like I said, a lot of these photos are off of Pinterest. I read The Hobbit, and then I love some Lord of the Ring aesthetic, and so I had to do a little spread for The Hobbit. And there's so many quotes from The Hobbit that I didn't realize were like mainstream quotes that are used in a lot of media. And I listened to Divine Rivals, and I absolutely loved it. It's a bit more of like a soft fantasy, and I really enjoyed it. And then we have my scrapbook for the month of things that I did and people I hung out with. We have March. As you know, March is Women's History Month, so I decided to do a little stereotypical feminine spread here with some of the assets that I had. Here's our calendar, still very pink, very girly. Stats, we read 12 books this month, and we have a little girl in her little secret library there. Have our highlights, moods, and media. Here we have some of our reads for the month. Cersei was our book club book read that month. Started on Throne of Glass this month. They jumping in. As you can see, there are sometimes where I pull some things up. So, word to the wise, your journal is for you. It does not have to be perfect. Mine certainly is not. You can see where I've whited out a lot and rewrote things. So, be realistic with yourself with your journals. Here's my spread for Cersei. I think this spread turned out pretty cute, very fun, very witchy, just like my girl Cersei. Then I made a spread for Verity by Colleen Hoover. And if you notice there's a lot of white space here, that is because I had planned to read both of the books in the Shadow Histories series, but I DNF'd A Radical Act of Free Magic. I might one day, but I DNF'd it this month. But I did think the spread was cool, so maybe we'll fill in this white space one day. Then this month we went to the Ren Fair and got these cards from these pirate dogs, and I wanted to put them in here, so I laminated them and taped them in. And so there's kind of like Dutch doors for my scrapbook part of this month. Look at all the cool pirate dogs from the Ren Fair. And then I did a first quarter recap, sort of my stats. I tracked all my habits. I don't do that going forward. Tracking genres and mediums and star ratings, wanting to see sort of where we were at, what we were favoring, and then ranking all the books. I use the Copile scale, so it's very numerical. There's some books on here that I probably, now in hindsight, it being months and months and months later, probably wouldn't rank them in the same way, but this is the ranking, at least after the first quarter of the year, that I thought. Moving into April, I hate this cover. I think it's awful, but I had a lot of printed out photos that I wanted to use, and so I did. Here is our calendar. Hate this one too. We read 14 books, several of those being the Lore Olympics graphic novels, so that is how we read 14 books. Highlights, media, moods. And here are our reads. If you can see here, everybody makes mistakes. I ended up not reading the book that I had taped in here, and I had to cover up the space, so I just was feeling ready for autumn. It was April, and I was ready for it to be fall, and so I put in some of those pictures. We have all the Lore Olympus and more of Throne of Glass. Our Books and Beyond book this month was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. We made a little spread for that one. Then I decided to do a little spread for Lore Olympus because I spent so much time reading all the Lore Olympus books this month. Now, little disclaimer, I did not love the Cat and Mouse books. I gave them both 3 stars, but I still felt compelled by the aesthetic to make a spread for it. And I had a lot of thoughts, so I had to write them down. So just cut me some slack. And then our April recap. There's some months where I really don't take a lot of photos, and so I sort of spread them out and sort of journal around them. And that's what we did here. May! I do think this cover page is very cute. A good redemption from April, which was a nightmare. Here we have our May calendar with books that I read. I kind of show that I didn't actually read these in some of these months, but I tracked them anyway. Like Babel, I was like, oh, I'll read that in June. Hello, I didn't. It's August, and I have not read Babel yet. So, but I started it that day, and then, oops. Highlights, movies, highlights, media, moods. Here are the books that we read in May. Another one of those instances where I needed to fill in some space. In this one, the only explanation for this is I got a lot of stickers from the Sarah J. Maas realm, and I needed somewhere to put them, so I used them to cover up my mistakes. Then we have Two Twisted Crowns, which is our Books and Beyond. I had already done a spread for One Dark Window, so I really was struggling for ideas on this one, but, it's fine. And then I read The Outsider by Stephen King, and I never filled this in because I had the full intention to write about it after I finished watching the TV show that is on HBO. Have I finished watching the TV show? No, I have not. That's why I have not finished this. I'm really bad about watching TV, to be honest. Then I decided to do this sort of series of spreads for Throne of Glass, Assassin's Blade, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and Queen of Shadows, and then I have not read Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, or Kingdom of Ash yet. But once I do, I will come back to this journal and fill these in to sort of finish out this sort of quotes aesthetic presentation of Throne of Glass. Then I made a spread for the tandem read. I did not read the tandem read in this journal, so I moved the tandem read spread to my other journal for the second half of the year. That's what this little move to part 2 tab is for. So don't worry about that. Then we have our scrapbook of the month with photos. Then it's June. As you can see, I did rainbow for Pride Month. Here's our calendar. It is a hot mess, but it's fun and it's colorful. And we tracked the books that we read. We read 6 books this month. Highlights, media, moods. And here are the books that we read. I tried to read some LGBTQ books that month. Our Books and Beyond book club book was Surrender Your Sons by Adam Sass. And as you can see, I made the spread but never filled in my thoughts. And that is because the time has come and passed and I never filled it in. And now I don't know what my thoughts are. So this will probably remain as it is. Something about me is about halfway through the year, maybe around summertime, I lose motivation in my journal. And if that wasn't evident by some of the spreads, it is by this. Then I had been reading quite a few Emily Henry books, so I made a Personally Victimized by Emily Henry spread with just some snippets from the different, from some of the different reads that I had that month. and some inspo pics from Pinterest that sort of speak to the vibes of Miss Girl. And then we have our highlights. Be gay, do crimes. That's June. And we have a couple blank pages before we get to a recap of the second quarter. So this is just April, May, June. I haven't filled in all this information, but we have the ranking of our books read, and then we did a best books of the year so far, where I have ranked all the books that I read January through June in this spread here. And then we have some pages where I've tested some watercolors, and we have some empty pages back here, which typically I end up ripping these pages out to use on spreads where I need something like this to write on top of things that are already pasted in. So that is what this paper will get used eventually. And then I put my stickers down in the back of a book. So these are some of my hero stickers that I have. Here are some stickers from some places that I have been, and so on and so forth. And here's where I tested all my markers and pens. And I normally will keep any sort of little crafting bits in these folders as well. So that is the full flip through of my part 1 of my 2024 bullet/reading journal. I hope you enjoyed it. I find journaling to be really fun, really meditative. It's a super relaxing thing that I can always sort of count on to do when I'm overwhelmed with work projects or anything like that. I'll just take a few minutes to do some journaling, and it's really helped me hold myself accountable for things that I wanted to read, because once I glued them in and committed them to paper, then I have to do it. And so I really like to bully myself into decisions. Peace out.